welcome to another video of Vibing with Via. Today I'm going through the process of making this video, but it is not business as usual for me. I am in fact going through a very difficult time, to say the least. The last week, this is as of April 10th, has been nothing but a roller coaster ride for me, because I've been facing grief. I have lost so many persons in the space of this 1 week. That losing someone that you love and someone that you care about is enough pain to really push you over the edge. So last week, Saturday, so in making this video, it's a week and a day to the date that my hubby lost his mom. And I'm not just going to say his mom, but I'm going to say our mom, because though I have my biological mother, she was also a mother figure to me. And it has hit me by now that she has made her exit from the physical world. That has come home to me simply because I am supporting him going through the process of getting things done to ensure that she has a beautiful Thanksgiving service, and so her soul can rest in peace. And it is because I see him having to do these things why I am learning to accept that this is a reality. But it has been a very difficult week, just a grief-stricken week. I have never in my entire life received so many bad news just in the space of 1 week. I lost also a young lady who I had the pleasure of mentoring and teaching in that horrible accident on the toll booth, and that in itself brought me back to a place that I never ever wanted to return to, having to lose someone that you've worked so closely with. Separate from that, I would have received the news of a friend of mine who's lost his grandmother, who's lost his sister-in-law, another friend of mine who's lost his sister-in-law and also lost his mother. It's just way too many bad things that would have happened in the space of 1 week. And so I figured that it is the right thing for me to do a video to talk about grief and to talk about how it is that we process this situation. I'm hoping I'll get through this without having to shed any tears, but if it comes, see with me. I know everybody expects me to be tough and I'm always on top of things, but I am pushing through to see how best I am able to, just basically go through this. Now, there are those persons who will say to you that if it is a case in which you're grieving, all you need to do is to take your mind off things. Take your mind off it and everything will be okay. That's a myth. Furthest thing from the truth. I don't know that there's anybody who can truly say that trying not to think about the person is one way of, getting their minds off it. Doesn't take the pain away. There is no time period either that is set aside for persons to deal with grief. It's not a year, it's not a month, it's not a week, it's not a day. Different persons will grieve in different ways. Going through the whole process of grief and grieving is actually a very individual experience, because different persons will go through that process in a different way. Much of it depends on your personality. It may depend on what are your coping techniques. It may depend on how closely you were with the individual who has passed on. It may depend on your lifestyle. It may depend on your faith. It may depend on your religion. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about my own grandmother and how my grandmother deals with death. She's had to bury probably a couple of her children, and she's also had to bury my grandfather. But reflecting on this entire process, for my grandmother, I've never seen her shed a tear. Doesn't mean that she doesn't love the persons around her, but that's not her coping mechanism, because she will always say to you that it is appointed unto man to die. And she's a woman of God, strong in her faith and strong in the Lord. And so she believes that the persons who would have exited this world of turmoil are definitely in a better place. Now, I marvel at that, because when it is somebody that I care also deeply about, it's not very easy for me to accept, as in the case of Mummy, my hubby's mom. And I will call her Mummy moving forward because that's really and truly how I call her affectionately. It has not been easy. How have I been coping? I have had to bawl my eyes out, literally 24/7. I'd be sitting there and I'd be crying. And in so doing, he has to be away because, of course, he has to be with his other siblings at this point in time. And he's just, really running around, as I'd mentioned before. And it's amazing how he calls me and he says, "Come on, man. You cry the first day, you cry the second day. Say, Mummy no stay say, man. Mummy upbeat and Mummy would have said to you, say, come no, man, God is in control." And I remember that is really the truth, and I try to mask it as a way to be strong for him, because I'm thinking if he's dealing with it in the way that he is, then naturally the expectation is that I too need to be strong. But it hit me. It hit me real hard. And there are days in which I have to say to myself that it is okay to continue to cry, because that in itself is a coping mechanism. That in itself is a way of dealing with the multiple emotions that are going through my own body at this moment. Because like I said to you, it has been nothing but pain, it has been nothing but turmoil. I take it a step further and I realized that after about day 3, I said to myself, somehow you need to pull your socks up just a little bit further, just an inch further. And so I started to reflect on the conversations that she and I would have. And in reflecting on these conversations, I started hearing her voice, and interestingly enough, I started to feel her presence, and I started to take away a lesson from it, that she would say to me that God is in control. And she would also sing to me the song, "Que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be." And in that moment, I recognized that she must have been at peace. And she is the kind of person who lives her life in the simplest possible way. And her thing is to be content, even in spite of grief, because I have watched her go through situations before in which she herself has lost a loved one, a brother, and the way in which she dealt with it was nothing short of amazing. And I said to myself, this is something that I have to try and do. So I reflect upon the conversations that I've had with her, and I still try to dig deep to find all the lessons that exist. Another thing that I have done in trying to cope is to look back at her pictures. Some are better than others. There are some pictures when I look at it, I'm like, oh my God, it's as if you're sitting right here in front of me, and this is an intense eye stare, and it gets, a little bit nerve-wracking for me in moments. But there are others that I see that really brings me a whole lot of joy and a whole lot of relief, because in these pictures and also videos too, I recognize that in those moments she was living her best life. And that is how I'm able to dig a little bit deeper for the hope that I think that I need in order to move forward, and also the hope that I need to demonstrate, so that everybody else, all the other siblings, hubby, his siblings, and so will be able to move forward, because there's a greater joy that is there to cling to. I have eulogized her in so many ways. I'm taking a shower, I'm speaking about her. I am getting dressed, I'm speaking about her. I'm about to go to my bed, I'm speaking about her. Speaking to the Lord, because I wasn't able to do that in the initial moments. But the moment I got an opportunity to just be still and allow the storm to quiet down a little bit and breathe a word of prayer, I was able to still talk about her, even to God, to friends, to family, And so that has helped me somewhat to come to terms with what has been going on. For the first time in my life, I know what empathy feels like. I've experienced grief before. Like I've said to you, I've lost my great-grandmother, I've lost my grandmother, my grandfather, a cousin, 2 cousins actually. I have lost friends that are dear to me. And of course, I have lost little individuals that I have had to hold dear to me. They're like my babies, teaching them and all, and then having to deal with the fact that they're no longer here. But I think by far and large, this particular instance has come and it has torn me apart. I finally know what brokenness feels like, because that's what I'm experiencing, brokenness. And it's very difficult for me to get to a place where I am able to dig deep just to find that strength to go on. You know, it's a war of words that's going on here. On one hand, I am hearing, come on, you have to pick up the pieces. And on the other, I am hearing, look, you are fine right in the zone that you are in right now, which is not true. I am not fine in the zone that I am in, but I've come to recognize that this is going to be baby steps. It's one day at a time in order to really get to where I need to get to. You see, a lot of persons are dealing with grief and they're not necessarily able to deal with persons, let's say, calling them up and giving them words of encouragement. I think about myself. If you call me in the moment when it's hot and you start to tell me things like, God's got you and it's going to be all right, and in that moment, you are sending me closer to my grave. I know you care. Just send me that little heart, you know, send me something to make me smile or something to make me laugh, or on some joke with me. Call me to talk about every single thing except what it is that I'm going through, because the more persons talk about it and even reassure me that they're going to be a rock of support for me is enough to send me deeper in grief. I know that for some persons that sounds a little bit weird, but that's how it works for me. Now, when you're going through your bad season, your rough patch, it is in moments like those that you come to recognize who are the real individuals in your life. And when I talk about the real individuals, I'm talking about persons who show up in a huge way just to lend support to you. I always talk about my tribe on this channel because as I've said to you before, and I'll continue to say to you, they've been my rock of Gibraltars, really. And my family, you're nothing short of amazing. It was nice to sit and hear my phone ringing, and that's an aunt, and that's an uncle, that's a cousin, it's a video call, everybody's checking in. And let me tell you, a constant checking in, and that's how you know that people are in your corner. I want to talk about my friends. I talk about my real friends. Not a day has gone by in which everybody has not checked in to see how I am doing, and also to see how hubby is doing. Real, recognized real. You know, even to those persons who may have just sent a message to say, oh, I heard what happened and I'm sorry to hear it. Thank you very much for that. It is greatly appreciated. But I'm talking about when somebody feels as though they're in a slump, when they're in a rut because they're dealing with something. It goes beyond just your preliminary message. It really gets down to the heart and the soul of that individual, so that they will know that as long as you are dealing with this, there is a support network that is there. You know, and so for this week, what have I been doing? Fighting hard to get some work done. That's not an easy feat. I have been fighting hard to find the willpower and desire to cook. I have been fighting hard to pick myself up out of the bed and just get into my regular routine. But I want to talk about the support again of family, because my mom, for example, will come and say, look, call me up, tell me something, what's going on with you today? You know what, I need you to get out of the bed, and I think you need to go walking. Let's go walking, come on, let's go walking. And I would go walking, and I recognized that as I was walking and looking at the natural environment and just interacting with people along the way, good morning, good afternoon. No, it was never good afternoon. Good morning, good morning, good morning, because I'm always walking in the morning, right? Those little instances allowed me to somewhat appreciate that there is still some value to be found in life, because by walking along the street and actually saying good morning to somebody, I would have been making their day, right? Not even recognizing that that is something that I was doing. So much of it has to do with how you still dig deep to make yourself of service, despite the fact that you are in your own zone and you are in your own rut. The final thing I will say about coping with grief, and this may sound very cliche, but I'll say it anyway. See your spirituality, can't beat that. If it is your faith, if it is your religion. But when I talk about spirituality now, I'm using that because I don't want to get down into the whole denomination and the divides that come with it. But I want to talk about that relationship that persons would have just had with their creator. When it comes down to dealing with grief, that is the greatest thing. Nobody can help you to pull yourself out of grief. You are the only person who can pull yourself out of it, because you have to dig deep. And the truth is, the strength that you are looking for to get out of that slump comes from where? The strength will come from God Almighty, the Creator. So if you don't have a relationship with God, and here now I'm not talking about dipping on the water and baptizing, because there are lots of persons who probably have not taken that particular step, but they have a relationship with Christ, or they have a relationship with whoever they call their God, you know, because not everybody might be Christian. I'm saying to you that at the end of the day, that is the, let's say, the largest road that you can trod in order to overcome the hurt and the pain that is there to deal with, you know. So overall, guys, that's pretty much my 2 cents on how I have been coping with grief. And I know that there are many other persons who feel right now as if tomorrow is so uncertain, and the truth is, it is. I'm not gonna go around you with that. It is uncertain. But I encourage you to cling to the hope that until your purpose is fulfilled on this earth, you will be right here on this earth. And no matter how short your dash might be, the day that you were born to the day that you are taken away from the physical world, be of service and be of good cheer. Give of yourself to the glory of God, because at the end of the day, that is all that matters. I am able to simply take myself 2 steps forward because I am mindful that Mommy and Janelle and Kim and all the other individuals that I have heard about in the past week were persons who really gave of themselves. And if you gave of themselves, sorry, pardon me with the grammar as well, I mean, you know, but they gave of themselves, and at the end of the day, their lives were lives of service. And the moment your life is a life of service, it means that God is with you. So please be encouraged. If you're going through the valley right now, just honor that space that you are at. Know that there are still good things to come in the midst of all of this that seem like grief or is grief. The songwriter says, joy comes in the morning, sorrows, they don't last always. And I just want to leave by saying that that is true. If you know me, I've always been the person to talk about weddings and babies. That's all I want to hear about, not people dying. I want weddings and babies. And God was good to me this week, because despite everything that I was going through, another ray of hope for me was getting a beautiful picture on my phone. There we go again, phone call, you know that's somebody checking in. But just being able to get that call on my phone where my cousin says, hey, meet your youngest cousin. I was like, when did this even happen? I didn't even know that you and wifey were pregnant. Like, where have I been, you know? But that was still something for me to be happy about, because my grandmother's tribe has expanded and God has still sent us another blessing. And so, as I said to you before, and I will say again, no matter how difficult it seems, no matter where you are in this valley, honor the fact that the same God who is holding your hand right now through this process will see you through to the very end. He will restore you. All right, so I thank you all for watching this video. Like, share, comment, subscribe, share it with a friend, you know, because somebody might be able to benefit from that which I have said here. It might not be fully organized this time around, because like I said, I'm just talking from my heart and everything is really all over the place, and I just have to live in that moment for now. All right, guys, so thank you so much for watching.